All right, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call to order the August 3rd meeting of the Parks Commission. Let me do a quick roll call. Susanna Jewell,
Here.
Dave Passios,
Here.
Kayla Wright,
Here.
and there's Jack Rodequins.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, Jack. Can you hear us, Jack? Jack, you're muted, so if you want to say
Now you're good.
perfect.
Yeah.
You're
All
good
right,
now.
let me read through my long spiel. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and that this meeting of the Lunenburg Park Commission is being conducted remotely. Accordingly, for those that are participating via video, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 Information Center page, can be accessed through the town manager's webpage and allows for public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. And as always, this meeting is going to feature any public comment that anybody would like to make. All right, so that said, first of all, I apologize for last week. I don't know how I messed up putting the wrong link in there. So my apologies to all of you guys and to anybody from the public who tried to join us and found there was no meeting because I had the wrong link in there. So, all right, first thing on the agenda is the approval of the June and July minutes. And as you are both probably aware, I only have the June minutes done. I have not finished tackling that really long 2.5-hour meeting. So all we have in front of us tonight are the June of 2020 minutes. Any changes, recommendations?
I actually read through the whole thing, and I think I participated through the whole meeting. Excuse me, whole meeting. I didn't see anything that needed changing.
I read it too. I didn't see anything.
If I can get a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the June minutes.
Second.
Quick roll call vote on that. Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. I will have the minutes ready from the 2 July meetings at our next meeting.
I'm supposed to help you with that, right, Karen?
Yeah, do you want to do tonight's meeting?
Yeah.
It'll be posted on YouTube.
Okay, good.
All right, and I can send you the letterhead too. Just remind me to do that.
Okay.
All right, do we have any updates from either Jack or Kayla?
Go ahead, Kayla, please.
Yes, so summer programs have been running. We have had programs running. Basketball has been running. Chess ran, cooking and baking ran. We have some coming up for August. We have some soccer. We have some more cooking, and then fall programs are being planned, both in person and virtual, kind of having both because we still don't know what's happening. The beach opened on the 13th, and I sent all of you guys the financials that I had as of last meeting. I haven't updated them to send them to you. And it is now no longer 24 hours in advance. You can sign up and go at any time. You do still have to pre-register just because we need all those records. But they're now using a digital sign in, sign out. So it's kind of like clocking in and clocking out. When you get there, sometimes they have the iPad or the computer, and they basically just check off who you are. And then when you leave, they check off that you've left. And I can see those from any, like I can pull it up on my screen right now if I wanted to. The fields are being used. All the field users did submit control plans, and they've been using them since they were given the okay by the governor, and then after they submitted their control plans to make sure that they were following those guidelines within their plans to reopen. I think that's it as far as programming in the beach.
Thank you. Jack, do you have anything?
Yeah, as you probably know, I was away all last week, but caught up with Kayla today. And I did take a ride over to Marshall Park today, the Big Diamond, and I was quite pleased to see that den of inequity that the kids call the Palace has been demolished. My daughter let me know last Friday. He said, "Hey, Dad, the Palace is gone." I didn't know it was called the Palace, but there's been some crazy stuff going on up there, and you know, we work with the police. They had some things going recently, and they didn't want us to take it down, but we did have a little trouble motivating the contractor, but with Kayla's help, did so, and it was done last week. There's some things he's not responsible for up there, some random trash that I'm going to have the group go up there and clean up. And there's one small pile of stumps and brush that we'll clean up in-house. And after that, we'll just throw some rye and some seed, and you know, it'll probably be some months, and it'll fill right in. So it's good to see that gone. I was able to finally make contact with the person who does the scheduling for the seal coating people. These are the people that we've been trying to get over to Wallace Park. I know Kayla has made numerous phone calls, as have I, to no avail, and numerous emails, as have I, to no avail. And for some reason, today it worked. And I don't know if we can believe this young man, but he said he's going to be over there the end of the week. So my crew went over today, this afternoon. There were some things we had to chip into the asphalt around the not goalposts, baskets. And so will he come on Thursday or Friday? I don't know, but after many calls, we hope that's going to happen real soon. In terms of that project, Dave had sent me an email asking a question about the encumbrance, and I just felt, with no disrespect, I wanted to present it if it was of concern to the whole commission. And because of the experience of most of this commission, you understand what an encumbrance is and what a capital project is. The unfortunate thing is a capital project. The bad thing about that is that we have to, as department heads, submit a project with a written quote, and sometime in the fall or late fall. The money, if it makes the cut, isn't ready or available, I should say, until the next July. At that point, that estimate may or may not be right on the money. It's unlikely somebody will keep their price for that long. So we've had times when prices very seldom have gone down, but have gone up, which is a difficulty with the system, because when you submit a written quote, there's the number right in front of you. And what I wanted to do in the recent past was add a 3, 5, whatever percentage on it, but it has to go in as the written quote. In this case, there was sort of a perfect storm of two things. One, the project didn't get off because we couldn't get the person over there. And then when we did get a second quote, when they said they would come some months ago, it was a few $1,000s higher than the original quote, which again is understandable. So in terms of the encumbrance, it was our task as department heads throughout this past fiscal year, under the direction of the town manager, to reduce spending wherever we could. In other lines in public works, it was thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, which we then either gave back in some instances to the general fund, or it would go to the town manager and the town accountant, and we would encumber monies to an existing contract, and that's key. You can't just encumber money into the next fiscal year. Again, as some of you know, you have to encumber it to a contract. So not unlike other parts of the DPW budget, there was some monies left over in the park account. Some of it I put encumbered into the demolition contract, which thankfully we did, because that ran at what, $3,000 or $4,000, Kayla, over by the time we got people to decide if they were going to do the job or not. And that was covered, and the balance then simply goes back into the general fund where it would have gone had we not encumbered it. In the case of the basketball court and the resurfacing, it was similar. It was one of the only two places we could encumber money. So I encumbered the rest of it into that contract, and rightfully so, because as it turned out, it's a few $1,000s more. And perhaps when it comes down to it, we could get a couple of amenities. But whatever is left over from that encumbrance will then go back into the general fund. So that's the encumbrance story. It's something that I've done for as long as I've been here. It's something that other department heads do. It's a good use of the money. If the town manager sees there's a better use for the money, then she decides to extract it from that. It comes under the advisement of the town accountant. And that's the short version of encumbrances. We just did an encumbrance today, in fact, because as part of that whole process, there are people, and I won't mention the vendor, they're a good vendor, but somehow their bookkeeping, gets caught up or doesn't get done. And we've had bills in the last few weeks that were supposed to be sent to us in March. I blame everything on COVID, some in April. And so we switched our encumbrances over so that we could get those bills paid from last year's funds. That's the encumbrance story.
Do you have any questions on that, Dave?
Just a quick one, Jack. The original estimate that was funded through capital was $26,000 for the 2 projects at Wallace. Is that correct?
You may know better than I. You've been researching that lately. I'm at home, so I don't have access to it.
Okay, no, that's fine. That is the number, I believe. I haven't looked at it in a week or two, but I believe that's the number.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, so there was about $7,000 spent on the fence from what I can understand. And so that leaves $19,000. So the surfacing's going to be a little over 20.
Yes.
Does that sound like the correct
It
number?
sounds
Okay.
right. I think it was, I can't,
No, that's fine. I'm not looking for exacts.
And you probably know it. It was another few thousand, don't hold me to that, more the second time around. And when push comes to shove and we get it done, it will be that number or perhaps some more.
Yep.
Slightly
Okay.
more.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so the next thing that's on the agenda is any beach updates or any policy issues that we need to deal with. Kayla, has anything popped up over the last few weeks, or do Dave and Susanna, you have anything that you want to bring up under this topic?
I do have one. I've had several people that purchased passes last year that are non-residents that are looking to see if they can now purchase day passes because we haven't been reaching our capacity. They've purchased passes in the past, the season passes in the past that they've, because they participated in swim lessons. I've probably had 5 to 8 people within the last week ask me about non-resident passes. And I told them that I would have to wait till the commission meeting.
How close to capacity have we gotten?
On some weekends, I'd have to look back. Hold on one second and let me just pull it up. I mean, on some weekends, we've gotten to almost 50 and capacity is 70, so.
And what does it look like on the beach when we have 50? Do we know?
Well, they're not all at one time. You know, just looking at the check-ins and check-outs, they're kind of staggered. And it looks like the majority of people stay an hour to an hour and a half. But from what I've seen on the busier days, it doesn't look, I mean, there's still plenty of rooms for social distancing.
Okay. Dave or Susanna, any thoughts on that?
My only thought was that I'd heard from some friends that were driving by and saw the beach empty, but knew that they couldn't just pop in. But it sounds like you rectified that with you can register day of.
Yeah, that's been since last Tuesday, I think it is.
Great.
Now you can
How's that
register.
going?
Good. A lot of people have actually, because the alerts come to my email when people sign up and stuff. And it seems like people are signing up and then just heading down. So it seems to be
good.
working well.
Okay. And if
Susanna, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was just going to ask you, the folks that you just mentioned, though, they're town residents, correct?
Oh, yes, yep.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead. Finish your thought. Then I'll
sorry,
continue.
yeah, no, it's still the case, sorry, Dave. It's still the case that you can't just drive up and register from your phone in the car. Can you do that?
No, you can.
On the spot? Oh, you can?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can be right outside the gate and register and then walk in.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Have the numbers gone up because of that?
During the week, I would say yes. The weekends have still been steady, but they have been pretty much since we opened. But during the week, I mean, I'd have to look at every day the numbers. But it seems like it. You know, yesterday, if I would have looked at today, there were only like 3 people, and then I think the final numbers for today are in the 20s.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, if that's the only feedback I was hearing from my general population that I'm in contact with, is that they were frustrated by the pre-registration business, but it sounds good.
Yep.
Great. What were you gonna say, Dave?
Yeah, personally, I think we stick to town residents only. That's one of the biggest reasons we opened the beach, was to give the town residents, you know, a place to go that they've gone to for many, many years. And it's in our protocols that we submitted to the Board of Health. I think we should be cautious as to opening this up too far. I understand the financial side of it and the numbers side of it. But I personally, 1 out of 3 on this board, feel that we should stay with town residents.
What are you thinking on town residents versus out of town, Susanna?
What is the specific language that it would fly in the face of from the Board of Health? Would they like revoke our ability to?
No, I don't believe so, but it's what we told them we were doing when we moved to open the beach, that it would be just for town residents. It would only be half-day passes. You know, there was a list of protocols that we included there. We've adjusted somewhat with the registering process, which makes total sense because we do have the capability nowadays of, you know, as Kayla said, standing at the gate with your smartphone and registering, which is the most important thing out of this whole thing, is record keeping and data, not only for our purposes to look at how the beach operated for the year, but also for COVID tracing.
Yeah. I guess I feel a little different. I guess if it's people that have been getting season passes and gone to the beach regularly before.
But you're not going to have control over that if you open it up to out of town people. It's open to everybody.
Right, you're not going to be able to pick and choose. I could go either way. Sorry, it's not very helpful.
Not very helpful either. I could go either way on it.
Excuse me.
All right. I guess I hear your point. Let's keep it for town residents for now.
I'm fine with that. Okay, so we'll keep it for in town.
Do we want a formal vote on that? Because I'll make the motion if need be.
We already have the motion saying that we're keeping it as, or we already have,
Need a
We
motion
would,
to allow non-residents, but
Right,
because you already have the policy of residents only, I don't think so.
Yeah,
okay.
'cause we already voted earlier this year to allow, to do no out-of-town residents, so we're not rescinding that, so I don't think we need to do anything on it. All right,
Right.
was there anything else on that front that anybody has? Everything else is going all right? We're meeting our control plan that we submitted, Kayla?
Yep.
How is the speech director handling it, and how, is she having an easy time of it, or how are the staff doing?
All the staff, they are able to do the sign in, sign out. And from, the times that I've been there when they have rotations and stuff, they're all working the table and stuff like that. And if they've had questions, they've asked.
Great.
But so far it seems,
I
knock on wood.
I was down there last Tuesday. I actually saw Kayla down there, and I stayed for a couple of hours with my little people, and they did quite a few rotations. Don't necessarily get all the rotations, but that's a Kayla thing. I don't know where they all go. They're doing the chair, they're doing the desk. I don't know what that third person does. So, but it went off smoothly, and it was great. They were greeting people right at the gate when they were coming in. Yeah, it was a good morning. It was a really good morning. So, great.
I've had a couple residents ask, and I didn't even think of it, that there's a phone number to call the actual beach house. But they've been getting no answer. It rings and rings and rings and rings, but no answer. Has that been remedied or looked into, or?
Yeah, so it's been turned back on, and I'm trying to get a tech out there because it's something with the actual line. I had been working with Sam to get it turned back on, and we've had it turned back on pretty much since the first week. But something happened with the line somewhere. But because of COVID, trying to get somebody out to look at it is not the easiest.
So
Okay.
can they make outgoing calls, or they have a way to call for help if need be?
Yeah, they have their cell phones. I made the exception that they can have their cell phones on the table outside in the bathhouse because they can't make phone calls out with the landline.
Okay. All right, great. All right, great. So the next agenda item is one that I had actually put on here. We've talked about it in the past, and that was for the 2020 to 2021 field usage fees. I did talk to Kayla briefly. So the reasoning behind me putting them on here was, in the past we've discussed it, and we're often a day late and a dollar short when it comes to putting things on the agenda in a timely manner, because I think the last time we talked about it, Little League had already published their fees and started taking registrations for the following year, and I just didn't want to have that happen again. That said, after talking with Kayla, I think leaving the fees alone for at least the fall, where we charge the Little League $10 per player for field usage, would be the best situation, and then put this probably on our agenda again for, do you think our next meeting, Kayla, or the one after that?
I think our next meeting, and then let the user groups know that it's going to be on for the next meeting.
Yep, so that they can, if they want to partake in that discussion, they have that heads up to come and have that discussion with us. And so that would be looking at the spring of 2021 fees. So if we were making any changes that would hit in spring of 2021 and not in the fall of 2020. And who knows what's going to happen anyway, but trying to get a better timeline of getting stuff done so that we're not, I just don't want to be bound to make a decision based on what the user groups have already published for rates. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dave, if you're trying to talk, you're muted.
I did that. Yes, it makes total sense.
Okay, so I'll keep it on the agenda for next month, and Kayla will hopefully have some idea of if we need to increase it, what her recommendations for increasing will be.
Karen, I think also once we do get through that process, we should look at a calendar and pick a date that we would review that down the road, given any new situation that arises, you know, midwinter, early winter, or whatever is appropriate before they start advertising those fees. Getting it done now gives us that window of opportunity to say, okay, this is what we expect the rates are going to be, but as we get a little bit closer, but well in advance of you advertising, we will take one more look at it.
Yep, agreed. And I think at some point, just the commission as a whole, a calendar of, I don't want to call it a calendar of events because that's not the right word, but there's certain things we do every year, regardless of the year. Things like the beach hiring, setting the beach opening and closing dates, you know, talking about field usage. The Phillies always put their requests in around the same time, and we should probably start compiling something so that we have an idea of, you know, every month I say, okay, I'm going to reach out and look for agenda items from everybody. But if one of us don't remember that, we missed that opportunity if it doesn't get on the agenda and we have to wait. So I'll probably pull some old minutes and some old agendas and start making rhyme or reason of when we've put these discussions on the table and try to make some sort of calendar so that Kayla knows it, we know it, and then, you know, I can say to you, okay, in September, this is what we have to do every year. And I mean, there'd be fluctuation if we needed it, like this year was, you know, a crazy year and things didn't happen the way it normally does, but it'd be a good idea to fully understand what decisions have to be made and when, because we make this, a lot of times we make the same decisions every year. So, all right, so I have, does anybody else have anything on that field usage before we go on? All right, so we have general park properties discussion, and we also have the park commission goals. I don't know if there's an order that anybody wants to take more than another. Does anybody just stick to the order that they're in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the order they're in would be fine.
All right, so we have general park properties discussions. So first I want to make sure that everybody is aware that the Sliva property, it's my understanding, has been finalized. Dave, is that your understanding as well?
I believe so. There might be one or two more legal steps to complete with signatures on paper, but other than that, I believe it's complete.
Okay, so that means a piece of land up off of Northfield Road, if you're driving out of Lunenburg towards Fitchburg on Northfield by the golf course on the left-hand side, that piece of property now falls under the Parks Commission. We are the group that is tasked with that side, and the Conservation Commission has the other. So at some point, no time in the future, that's with that piece of property can just be reserved for future use, whether it be 10 years from now or 5 years from now. It's there for our use. And then we need to start making some significant headway on the rest of our properties, from what's there, if it needs to be maintained at all, if we want to keep it the sports that they're currently set up for, if we want to make changes, if there's anything we want to add to it. And I guess that would sort of come under a master plan of the entire parks properties. I think we need to start getting a handle on what we have, what needs to be done, what sports we're trying to target, what changes we need to make in order to accommodate those sports. So that's sort of what this topic is. Dave, do you have something to add on that part?
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 things. In regards to a master plan, I think that should be a long-term goal of our commission. Hopefully, we're going to have 5 members by the end of the summer. In any case, be well into having done a review of the existing properties and a rough draft of what we foresee on those properties over the next 5 to 10 years. Concurrently with that, I'd like to see us start hitting the ground on Marshall Park specifically. I think I waver back and forth whether we keep it fully within the commission or we set up a task force and or some other entity to bring together our commission, a member of Conservation Commission, Open Space Committee, any of the committees that could help us pull together an individual master plan and gather information and data from the public as to what they would like to see Marshall Park used for. We've got 23 acres there. It could very easily be a multi-use park, much more multiple uses than we're using now. We've got some structures and areas that have been allowed to run down or have run down due to lack of funding, whatever the reason, it doesn't really matter. But look at those facilities and see if we want to bring them back to life or replace them with something else. We've got a fairly large acreage starting down at Marshall Pond that I'd love to see trails start connecting from the center of town and or the Marshall Pond parking lot up to the park. That's where I say Conservation Commission would be really helpful in there. I'd also like to propose, and I'd like to leave this on the table until the next meeting, and we can vote it up or down. But I would like to propose a temporary, and this does not affect, obviously the structure's gone already. And I was kind of glad it was gone before we had this meeting so I could make this motion with that gone already. But with the bathroom building gone, I would propose that the commission put a policy in place for a temporary moratorium on removal and or demolition of any other structures on Parks property until we get a handle on the ones we want to rehab or reuse or remove. It just gives us a little bit of breathing space. And I know Jack will still have to keep any structure that gets broken windows or anything like that safe and, you know, cover up broken windows, whatever. But I don't believe there's any other structures like the Palace that are really an issue at this point. I just want to protect the exercise circuit at Marshall Park and some of the other Boy Scout projects that have been done over the years. The tennis, basketball court, whatever you want to call it at Marshall. I think there's some really strong interest in rehabbing that. And I just want to note that as much as some of these things may not get funded as we go into the fall and winter, there is still an incredible amount of grant money out there that is still available to be applied for. Whether it will be actually granted or not, I'm not sure. The legislature just passed a bond bill under emergency rules. So it is passed and it's a done deal. There's $100 million in that bond bill for capital infrastructure improvements for municipalities. There's another number, and I don't remember what it was at this point, but basically for trails and that type of grants. And these are going to be grants that you apply for through a certain entity at the state. But it's been funded by the legislature. And as far as I know, that money will be available when those programs are awarded. And I'm sure most of you have heard Lunenburg got an additional $250,000 for a couple of our capital projects. That's money that will offset our capital plan and give us some more money to do other things in the capital plan. I think that pretty much covers, go ahead.
I have a question. So, and I know you said we could take it up at the next meeting, which is fine. It would give everybody some time to think about it, but putting a temporary moratorium on ourselves on something that we could override, I guess so any demolition it comes before us. So this bathhouse was voted on by the commission. So I don't, and Jack, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that you can go in and just get rid of something without the board's permission. Is that correct?
First of all, it would never be my intention to, yeah, you're right. First of all, let me back up. It was voted, and I think it was appropriate to do so. I would never take it upon myself to dismantle anything that's existing unless it was an imminent public safety issue. And even then, I would, as a courtesy, discuss it with the commission. So I don't know. The commission can answer your question. Do you put a moratorium on yourself? I don't know that that's necessary. I think, Dave, the spirit of what Dave is saying is we have things there. Some are in disrepair, some are not. We're not going to, I would be the person to go in and clean it out. That would never happen. What I would suggest as we expound and he expounds upon these things, that it's clear to me that there is an infinite number or there's an infinite potential for other properties and Marshall itself, the 23 acres or whatever it is. So I think it's incumbent upon the commission to organize their thoughts, set their priorities, come up with a plan. If you need help with this plan, there could be sources available for some amount of money, which we could carry in the budget. And then it's never too early to start thinking about the capital plan, and whether it's a successful venture or not, it should nevertheless be put forward as a viable project. Whether it gets funded or not, who knows? So that's a crapshoot with the finances here, but the potential is limitless. And it's sort of you guys are in a great spot to be able to look at that and, how about this and how about that? But get something, and as Dave says, even if it doesn't happen this year, next year, the year after, and it could be a living document. I mean, it could change, but try to get started. I mean, I know it's only August, but I'll tell you, it won't be but a couple months and the process will start. Try to get solid on something that you'd like to see, even as a foundation of one of or all of the properties. Start putting something together. Not that it can't be changed, but it's incumbent upon you to, put something together to put before the public.
So Dave, I'd like to, obviously you had said it, to talk about this at the next meeting. For myself, I think I need to put a little bit more thought into it.
And that's why I wanted, years ago with the Firefighters Association, every motion that came up was left on the table for 2 weeks so people could think through it and come back to a second meeting and say, I'm not so sure I'm keen on that. That's what my intent is at this point. I just want to put a pause on everything on the parks properties at this point and concentrate on a basic blueprint of what we see this property moving towards, that property moving towards, this one staying the way it is, and then add 1 or 2 tasks to each one of those properties, depending on what that decision is. I honestly, personally, would like to push Marshall Park. I think that's got the greatest potential to come back to a multi-use park. I mean, we've talked about over the years, or this commission has talked over the last couple of years of, the option of eliminating the 90-foot diamond and reusing that space. I think those types of things need to be vetted further.
I do as well.
In the next year.
Kayla, have you ever worked on a master plan for a property that really doesn't currently have any direction? So, and this is the same question I find myself asking all the time because I don't have any experience with this sort of project. How do we execute it? And how do we execute it so that there's the three of us, we're great, but I think it needs more input. And because I think it's going to need more dialogue. How do we go about executing that? And how do we want to, what do we want it to look like in order to execute that? Because we need to make some headway on this. And I think if we can start making headway, even if it's before all 5 members are here, at least we have something set up so we can hit the ground running when we do welcome that 4th and 5th member.
Karen, if
Yeah.
I may,
Yeah.
please. All I can relate it to or compare it to is some of the larger projects we've done. I think if I'm answering your question, if I'm hearing it correctly, is that there was a basic skeleton of a design, if you will, or in this case, a plan that I'm sure the 3 of you or the 4 of you can put together. And then like with our complete streets, or even years ago with our Summer Street project, the thing that was most important was to have that skeleton and then invite the public in the public hearing. Now, were they well attended? We can't worry about that. All we can do is offer that to the public. This is the skeleton we have. You're all aware. Let's take the Big Diamond Marshall Park, or the park itself. Say this is what we have. This is what the 3 of us / 5 of us have brainstormed and come up with. We're at the infant stages. What do you think? Public input, public support, as you well know, is necessary for moving any of this forward. So I think that's how you do it. You work diligently amongst yourselves to get the foundation or the skeleton of what you'd like to see, with tangents in each direction that are open for discussion. And you put that before a group or the public, listed as a public hearing, sort of an informal public hearing, a brainstorming event. You have a whiteboard, you have people put all those things on the whiteboard, you take it back to the commission.
And we did something similar to that. I think it was a year ago, Susanna. Remember we had a decent turnout one night when we were at the DPW, and we were strictly there just to talk about Marshall. I know, Dave, you were there.
Yes.
And I do have the notes there. So
People are interested.
people are interested, and I want to make sure it's done right. I feel like I have public input that we can pull from the open space survey that went out, but that wasn't created by us, and I don't really know who came up with the questions around what people wanted to see. So there was always a spot, for other, where they could write something in, but there were things like, do you want a picnic area? Do you want a skate park? Do you want, maybe it was another swimming area. They were like already in the survey before I came along. So I'm not sure those are the best numbers to rely back on, because we just don't, we can't put another swimming area down at Marsh Park. So we can pull those, but I think we need to get some public input and start executing this.
Well, look at Dave's idea of there seems to be an interest with the commission with that exercise route.
Yep.
Call it a route, stations. Okay, so that's, just say as an example, that's brought up to the public in this public brainstorming session, hearing, whatever you'd like to call it. Say this is important to the commission. You've already mentioned that it's important to the commission. You are the commission. So then, but it might be, oh, geez, how could we enhance that? Could we do this? Could we eliminate that? Could we put it going this way or that way? Do you see how that could sort of blossom? But you
Yep.
start with the foundation that is an interest to you, the commission, and you build from there. Another one might be the old basketball court / tennis court, whatever. The commission suggests ABC or suggests enhancement or whatever. What do you think of that?
So what do you guys think about, and I need movement on this. So although I say, what do you guys think about? Whatever we're doing, it needs to be some sort of action to move towards the next step. So my thought is, if we could all individually look at the Marshall Park plan again, write down our own thoughts of what we would like it to look like. Because then if we each brought them to a meeting, and if Susanna thinks the track's important and Dave thinks the track's important and I do, we're all on the same page there. And if somebody has something else that they're thinking of, we can throw it out for discussion, and then we can ask Kayla to take that information and start putting it together so that we can have a, we can have a working meeting with the public and, throw some
Yeah,
ideas.
that sounds like a good idea. I like that idea.
Karen, what you just described, I think, would be information that we bring to a commission workshop first
Okay.
and
Yeah.
bring it together. A little bit of an adjustment in my mind is or correlating a list of what's already there, and then in our individual minds, what we'd like to see added or areas of the park that we see potential for adding another use. And then we'd have a decision on what's already there. Do we want to keep it or don't we? And then are these other things important enough to us to also be looking towards for the long term? And then once we get that balanced out, then bring it to the public and say, okay, this is what the commission has come up with. Take a look at it and give us your feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that after we have that meeting with our commission, where we come up with our individual ideas, and before an open to the public design charrette, we should have a tour for the open to the public hosted by Dave Passios, Marshall Park. Really though, I don't think the general public really knows what an asset it is. I think people don't even know that the basketball court, tennis court thing is down there, and it's massive, and it would be beautiful there. And like if you had a tour, I bet you get 10 people at least, and they would talk to their friends, and I don't know.
All right.
And I think if we, go ahead.
Right,
I was just going to say, if we get the vision put together, then the next step, once we're all on the same page, then you start figuring out how you fund it. But if you don't have the vision, then you don't know what direction to go for the funding, because there's recreational funding and grants out there available for projects like this. The town may be in better shape in 2 to 3 years to take on a portion of the cost. I foresee if we could get back to some kind of normal with the grant money that's been available in the past through open space. There are parks grants, there's all kinds of money that's still out there. If those don't disappear, I can see this project being funded almost totally by grant money and work in kind from local contractors.
Agreed. All right, so let me leave it on the agenda if everybody can, and nobody take this the wrong way, but don't just leave here and tell me that you're going to think about it and then not think about it. We really need to start making some headway to this. I feel like we've chased our tail for long enough and trying to figure out how to get some motion that we just need to, even if it's motion that is very slow because we're, not quite sure, we got to get some motion going because I think it will pick up momentum. And then when we're ready to have, a workshop or charrette or whatever we want to do whatever we want to call it to start making plans, we'll have, like Dave said, our own vision already set and take other people's input. And then we can decide if we want to do it ourselves as a board or if we want to, somehow put together a task force that might include some other, people that have good ideas as well and are ready to do some work. So
Right.
I can,
The idea of us coming up with a vision initially and then strategically inviting other boards in spots where we think that they would be needed, you know,
yeah, no, we can
just
certainly,
so
we
that
can
it's not a
certainly
whole
do that.
cook in the
Uh,
kitchen, you know.
Jack, are you waving to us because you want to say something, or are you good?
No, that's just a blip on the camera here.
I'm like, what is he doing? Okay. You look good to us, Jack, so you're good. Yeah, and you know, we can, not that I want to individually invite town residents too. We'd put it out there for everybody to join us at these workshops, charrettes, tours, whatever it is we do. As you know, it's the same thing with every meeting. Everybody is welcome to attend. But we can certainly reach out to those people that had attended our last one to make sure they're aware that, you know, we have another one coming up as well. Because I had a decent number of people there with some great ideas. We can certainly make all of that happen. All right.
One comment I'd like to make is that obviously I'm biased towards Marshall Park because I grew up in that neighborhood and I spent half of my summers in that park. So I don't have the vision of the other properties that somebody else might have. And I think it's important that if there is a vision out there for one of those other properties, that information should be brought to us so that we're at least aware that there is an individual or maybe even a group that's interested in something being done differently at one of the other properties, and just have that in the back of our minds. I would like to concentrate on Marshall Park, but I think we need to be constantly looking at all the properties.
Well, I think in order to even, I agree, concentrating on Marshall Park, especially since it's the biggest park and it's, you know, in the center of our community is what I would want to do as well. But I think to know what the other fields are that we have and how they can be used would help play into Marshall Park. And I'll use the Little League as an example. And I don't claim to know a lot about field sizes on Little League, but all of those fields that they have, they're different sizes, and they're different sizes for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as easy to say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z at Marshall Park, and this is what we're going to have for baseball there. Or maybe we say, we're not going to keep this there. But I think it's also our responsibility to be able to look and say, well, if we can't have it here, how do we incorporate that into another area that we have? The 90-foot diamond is unique in itself because of the size, but also because the school department uses it. And they may not have another place to put something if we were to get rid of that 90-foot diamond. So I don't think we want to necessarily leave them high and dry. So we'd want to see what we can come up with for a plan, and can any of our other fields accommodate any other size baseball diamond? Can they start to be where the baseball numbers have been lowered? Can they start to be combined? And those are things that I think would be important in driving some of the direction of Marshall Park, because we may not need 3 baseball fields, actually 4 baseball fields at Marshall Park. We might be able to absorb it someplace else, or, I think we have to have a little bit of direction, even if it's not a grand master plan on the other parks, to know what we have, what we need, what sports want to use it. Because honestly, if nobody else wants to use it, then maybe we just focus on Marshall Park and just continue to let the baseball fields run as baseball fields, all the other smaller ones. So there's a lot to do, there's a lot to figure out, and some of it's going to be information from the public, information from other groups, and of course, a lot of information and legwork from us, and Kayla and Jack, or whoever replaces Jack, to sort of figure out. So, but we'll get there. So,
Karen, just to wrap this up,
Yeah.
I remember vaguely we had talked about a consultant.
yep.
And I think it's premature at this point. I think it would be premature because it may thwart the creativity not only of this group, but of other groups. But it wouldn't be my intention to put more work onto Kayla. but it may be something that you'd want to consider down the road. I'm sure there are people that do this, and you're right, Karen, when you suggest that we can't operate in a vacuum, which is, we can't do just Marshall Park, even though that may be, or you can't, even though that may be your prime focus, without looking at all the other facilities you have. And even though much of the work may be initiated at Marshall, you say, well, this diamond can go here and that can go here. I think you have to look at them all as a whole. And I don't even remember what the number was. But it might be something you want to think about after the initial brainstorming, workshop, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
If I may for a second.
Yeah.
Kayla, during your interview, I believe, and correct me if you don't remember because I'm not real clear, did I ask you a question specifically in regards to this process and if you had worked with any entities to repurpose and or renovate a multi-use park? Do you remember that?
I had said yes on 2 occasions in Sudbury alone, one for the community building and one for 2 different fields, basically for the same process. One was a strictly baseball field that they were looking to make multi-use, and the other one was already a multi-use, but how could we get better usage out of it and revamp what was there?
Right, okay. I only bring that up because of the many things that Kay was done in her career, and one of the reasons that we really pushed hard to bring her here is that she's got that experience. So I think this project, she'll be a real asset to this project. And again, I agree with Jack, at your present number of hours per week, don't want to dump 10 projects on you. That's not fair at all. But having the background of already been through that process, I think you'll be a huge asset to the process.
All right.
She's
So
invaluable. She's invaluable. I mean, I may see her and spend more time with her, and I just think, in conclusion, she's invaluable. She's doing more, like most of us, than the hours and the pay suggests. Might be something that you folks want to think about enhancing in the next budget season. There's lots of things that I'd like to suggest before leaving that, for personnel and things like that, but she's done a wonderful job. And you guys have done a great job. If you remember some months ago when this whole thing was burning, this virus was burning a lot harder, we really didn't know what was going to happen with the beach. And to sit here on August 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, whatever it is, and say that, well, yeah, we have little tweaks, people waiting at the door, I really don't think that it could have gone much better. And that's a credit not only to Kayla, but for you guys to put it together. So I think if we had thought months ago that we would be in this spot with the beach and people enjoying themselves and making it available to residents, I think we would have been happy with that goal. And here you are. So
yeah, agreed. Yeah, Kayla, you're more of a wealth of information than any of us, so they will certainly be utilizing you. All right, so I'll keep that on the agenda. If we can start doing some of our own legwork to come up with ideas, we can start plugging along and trying to make some headway on this. All right, so the next one was at a request of Mr. Passios, but I know it's one that I had talked about in the past, and that is coming up with park commission goals to give us some direction. So we have something at the end of a year to say we were successful or we were unsuccessful in this endeavor that we were doing. I don't know if you have anything you want to throw out there, Mr. Passios, or any discussion you want to have.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to frame this, but I think there are a couple of policies that we really need to vet out completely and get a document stating that policy so that it's in place for use from year to year. What prompted me to come up with this as a goal is what Kayla went through as the beach was opening. We were jumping from phase 2 to phase 3. Everything was happening at the same time, and she had entities coming at her on Sunday saying, here's our schedule, we're going to start playing tomorrow. And I think we need to have a solid policy in place that gives a time frame that gives Kayla and the commission a little bit of breathing space in situations like this.
Yeah, and I think they need to be fine-tuned because we do have some policy, and some of it is just a matter of going back and digging through old minutes. But when we didn't have anybody working with us, you know, they sort of end up, you know, I wasn't the chair when we were talking about it, so, you know, I don't know if he had saved them in a document, but then it never got passed on to me. So it's a matter of going back and picking through things. But they definitely need to be fine-tuned anyway. And then they need to be utilized in a way that every organization understands the expectation.
Exactly.
Because right now we don't I thought they were clear on things. And, you know, a fine example of this is, have we been paid from the Little League yet, Kayla?
They're sending a check this week, I've been told.
So, you know, those were things that I thought we were clear on that needed to be in before the season started. And yes, this was a funky season, but we're well into the season at this point, and we still haven't gotten paid. So, yeah, I think things need to be fine-tuned, and I do think some sort of policy document would be a great goal for the commission, because it can always be added to. It would be more than what we have. So I think that's a great goal. You know,
Just to add on that real quick,
Yeah.
for your next meeting, when I have, you know, proposed increases and things like that, I do have kind of going along with what Dave said and what I've experienced with the fields this year. I have drafted up some policies for you guys to look at and, you know, add to it, take away from it, vote on it in regards to timelines for requests and submissions and things like that.
Okay, perfect. And a
That's
lot of
great.
it's going to have to, I mean, again, I hate putting a ton of projects on you, but I think you're sort of, I think you figured out where our deficits are at this point, and you're making note of them as you go. So I think a huge number of these are going to be policy that's going to be driven by Kayla and things that she has noticed that are working or are not working. And it will be for us to, you know, go back and forth with, approve it, you know, and ask you the tough questions of, you know, whatever questions we have before okaying that policy. So I'm glad that you did that, because I think that that's the fine tuning that I'm talking about. That's the fine tuning of, now that we have somebody on the ground doing the legwork. She knows, she's seeing it firsthand because she's dealing with it on a daily basis. Whereas me, in the past, when I've chased people for money, this is not my job. It was, you know what I mean? It was just me trying to make sure we collected and nobody else available to do it. So
Problem was, it was nobody's job.
right, exactly. So, you know, I sort of took on that task, but I wasn't doing it full time. And, you know, I never knew if it was me, just because, you know, it took me a week and a half to get to something, or if it was them. You know, I just never knew where the blame fell. So now that Kayla's here, I think she's getting a good idea of where our deficits are. Personally, in terms of goals, I would like to start seeing some engagement with the community in both, you know, soliciting feedback on our parks as well as our recreation side. What do they want? You know, we hear all the time that we don't hit certain demographics or age groups. And I agree with that, but what do they want? What do our, you know, what do our seniors want? They say we have nothing for them. Well, what can we do to do something for you? And all that's going to require feedback and some engagement on the community side of things. You know, maybe even some sort of discussion at the senior center. I know that we've had I know we had a charrette there, you know, a couple of years ago that seemed to be well attended for what was the TC Passios building. So maybe we could get the same sort of turnout to have feedback on the parks. That's sort of what another goal that I was thinking of. And then of course, I think the big goal that I think everybody is in agreement on is, some sort of master plan with Marshall Park being at the top of that as being sort of our diamond up at the top, and then the other parks falling underneath it, and, figuring out what comes first and getting motion on that.
I agree. I think that's the big one, is getting Marshall Park in the conversation in town, getting people talking about it and excited about it, and seeing what people want to do with it. And I think that's a big goal, should be a big goal for 2021.
Yeah, I do as well.
To push it a little bit, I'd like to put a tentative goal on that for a presentation to the May 2021 town meeting. Attempt
You
to.
see the look that I just gave you?
Yes, I did.
That,
I'm not saying a full vetted proposal, but a report as to, a quick report as to what we've done to this point and what it looks like, and this is what we may be coming to you a year from now with, or asking for more input at that point.
I think there are so many things that we can do at Marshall Park for little money, short money right now, before a whole big design process and all this stuff too. We could fix up that track immediately, right? Or close to it, or we could clear out a lot of the vines and weeds and have a volunteer day. We could do a lot before we got a town-wide approval to revitalize the whole park, right?
You mean the walking track?
Yeah,
Suzanne?
right.
Yeah. I think that was hot some months ago, and I think Kayla, we had some discussions on that, she and I, and looked at even taking into consideration the continued use as a baseball field and what sort of surface, right, Kate? And what we would do. No, I can't sit here and tell you it's going to be X amount of dollars, but it doesn't seem like it would be extraordinary in order to make it a surface where people would not twist their ankles. And if anybody's noticed, and I'm sure you have, once the turf track opened, there's lots of older folks and not so old folks that just like to walk. And I think in a different section of town, different neighborhood at the very least, let's look into that. I think that's a great idea. We don't have to wait for a master plan to do some things to enhance what we have.
Well, and doing the track.
Yeah, without moving backwards. So, doing something there, in my opinion, would not be moving backwards. If the baseball field were to leave and something else were to happen, well, we're not constructing anything with pavers and things like that would be bad, good money after bad. But I think that's something we could look into even now. Now we're into a new fiscal year. We do have a budget, and so let's move forward on that if it's the pleasure of the commission.
I think if there's anything we can do to get more people in the park right now and thinking about it and moving around in it, I think that we should work towards that. The more people are there, the more they're going to see and start thinking about what to improve and what else they want out of it. And everyone's out walking right now. Everyone's trying to social distance and stay fit and are traveling a little less, and they're here and they're walking.
Yeah, I met an older gentleman in the right field gate as I was coming out. We stood and talked under the no dogs allowed sign while he had his huge dog on a leash, and then said it was great talking to you, and he just meandered onto the field. He stayed to the left. You know what? I didn't have the heart to say, hey, look at this sign. But it was, the irony was not lost, but he was moving. He was an older guy. He had his poop bags, and you know what? Let the movement continue.
Right.
All right, so,
Karen, could we put the track on the next meeting as an agenda item? Then we can discuss it thoroughly.
you know I'm gonna forget all this, right? Because I've
Yep.
got chicken scratch, so,
Recorded though,
it's recorded, but you're gonna be working on the minutes and not me, so.
right?
I
I'll
may
remind
not
you.
do it again. So, yeah, if you can remind me, and I mean, I do take
Yeah.
notes as we go. So let's leave this one, another one, I think that it's not a one meeting topic. I think we need to, solidify what we all agree with. I think it would be reasonable to have 3 goals. I don't think it would be too excessive to have that many. I think if we go over that, I think we're starting to sort of take a toll on everybody's volunteer time and our limited time that we have Kayla, because she's still part-time. So if we can streamline some of it and have some goals that we can actually have some measurable data on at the end, I think that'd be a great thing for the commission, because it would add to the vision of what we're trying to do, keep us on task.
Is there a map of Marshall Park current field layouts and everything somewhere to be had?
Yeah, I think you have it, Suzanne. I think, didn't I? We had, we had an engineer do the meets and bounds of Marshall Park, the whole perimeter. Whitman and
Oh,
Bingham
yeah.
did it.
Let me check, sorry. I have a lot of
Well,
plans in
no,
my
it may-
office.
I think that might be a good start for you.
Yeah,
For
definitely,
everyone.
all right.
And Google
I'll look
Earth
for
has
it.
a good overview of it as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this, we paid about $7,000 for this.
Awesome.
So
can't
it-
remember the parking lot layout now that you
Yeah.
say that, okay.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
Okay, so let's leave that on our agenda. Does anybody else have anything on those things that we just talked about?
So in my mind, we've more or less got 3 goals in mind already, and that would be policy documents, engaging with the public on what they'd like to see for programming, especially expanding to other target groups, and then the Marshall Project.
Yeah.
I think that's a good set of 3 goals, and simultaneously we'll be working on smaller projects that we could do in this fiscal year probably, as we are talking about the track, and maybe some small things at the other fields that would not cost a lot of money, but people would see that it's, small improvements.
And
Right.
don't forget the enhancement of the beach.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We sort of
Right.
dropped that to open, and I've already spoken to you about how I felt the job you did on that, but there's that access to the other part. There's some ADA considerations in the house itself when we're finally able to open that. So, there's been some thought. There was a site visit. There was a mention of a pocket park. I'll always remember that. So there's an area there that we've already spent some time on that should at least be considered. Now, other things may become more important, but there's some work down there that we talked about as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
Jack, do we have some accessible picnic tables stored away somewhere, or have they been reallocated somewhere?
We bought 3. Kayla ordered and we took delivery of 3.
Yep.
We put one in the area I just mentioned with a mat. So, it's not optimum, but it was a move in the right direction. So somebody
Right.
could get in there.
Is it open, Jack, that area?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Or beach manager has a key.
Okay.
We put one on Fitzgerald Field because there were only a small set of bleachers there, and I have noticed over the years that people sort of meander through there, so we put one there. And or did we? No, that's where the third one was going to go. I correct myself. There were 2 picnic tables in extreme disrepair at McNally Field, just beyond left field. And we took those out, at least one of them, and we put one of the ADA tables there. And we still have one that's put together that's in the DPW garage.
Okay, great.
We'd be happy to place upon anyone's suggestion.
There'll be a small project in my new use areas for the Marshall property, actually down near Marshall Pond, that something like that would be great, but I hope we find a use for it before that would be even close to be ready.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
The- All right, so we've got, I'll let you guys go back over your own notes, things that we need to start making headway on and bring to the table for discussion at our next couple of meetings. I will send out, as I always do, something asking for any agenda topics that they have. If anybody could refresh my memory of what they want, or if they have something new to add. I just ask, I think the longer the meetings are, the more difficult they are to navigate, especially when it's done virtually. So if we can keep them and not have huge lengthy agendas like we've had in the past. And some of that's just because there were little things and it was straight to the point and it was easy to do. I just, 2.5, 3-hour meetings is a little bit, at least for me, it's a lot to have via Zoom. Are there any board comments or public comments? I only see one member of the public who is probably on the other side of my wall. But does anybody have any board member comments?
Yeah,
Did you have something, Jack?
no, I was just saying that the person who's sitting in, we can't seem to shake him.
Oh, yeah.
I have to wonder if he'll have a public comment because, he's been logged on for quite a while.
There he is.
He's showing up on random meetings. So, Dave, do you have a public comment? Oh, there he is. Awesome. He's outside my window. Oh, here.
So we doing board comment or public comment first?
Let's do board comment, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, just very quickly, as some of you have probably seen my posts on the charter. I did not check today, but best I can tell, it's stalled in another committee in the House of Representatives. Representative Senna, the last I knew, unless Chris has some new information, since he talked to him, the comment was, well, maybe we can get it out in August. Rather disappointed because I understand that with the right prodding and request, it could be out of the House of Representatives and over to the Senate, where Senator Dean Tran is waiting to expedite it, enact it, and get it back to us. So I'm going to keep on that. I don't know when it's going to happen, but one other comment I wanted to make. My last meeting with Town Council, we discussed a doable route to filling the seats without having to wait for another election. I'll leave it at that for right now until there's nothing we can do until the charter is fully in effect. So there's no use discussing it at this point. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will get on Senna as well. And see if I was actually quite dismayed when I listened to him talk. He didn't seem to even know what this was. So it'd be nice if we could get it taken care of sooner than later. Mr. Menard, do you have any public comments?
No, I'm just out here at watching weightlifting going on in the garage. So an outdoor weightlifting park would be greatly appreciated.
Not happening. So not happening.
So no, I got no comment.
All right.
You never know.
Can they all get out of my house? Like that's really the point that I'm at now. I'm used to having my house to myself and.
Okay, Karen, this is public comment, not private comment?
Oh, exactly. So, all right, next meeting, when do you guys want to do it?
Next week?
Wait, I have one more comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Susanna.
Sorry, is this your last meeting, Jack? Are you retiring soon?
I give you the inside skinny on the retirement is that the retirement for me involves Social Security and Medicare. It involves the North Worcester County or the Worcester County Retirement Board. Also, it involves a necessary document from Worcester Probate Court, which none of which are, none of which you can visit. And Social Security only accepts faxes. Now, who does business with faxes? And the one contact I do have
Just
there,
the government.
very, very nice lady who's helping me, says the faxes are only picked up on Fridays by the manager and distributed on Mondays. So as when Heather read that letter of mine, I'm actively working on it, but I have to, protect my family in the sense that I just can't retire and then spend weeks and weeks getting this squared away. So as soon as I do, I'll let you know. No, it'll be a little bit yet. Certainly won't be
Okay.
into the winter, I don't expect by any means, but
Right.
I've got some things I have
Not
to.
get you a park send off.
No, yeah, well, you and I can take care of that.
All right, next meeting.
What would you guys like for our next meeting date? I'm gonna pull up my personal calendar, Jack. I hope that's right during the meeting.
No, that's fine. I'm not that.
I do want them all out of my house, though.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Here's I need
September,
more than that.
so September 7th is Labor Day, it's later than normal.
This is actually the July meeting. I'd like to put another one into August.
Oh, I see.
This is July.
Yes, July meeting was supposed to be in my mind, last week's meeting was a July meeting, not an August meeting that we didn't have.
If we had met last week, we would have had 3 meetings in July.
We had an emergency meeting.
Well, and that,
You're not going to want to hear this, but I'm used to meeting twice a month with
I know.
any board I'm on.
I'm fine meeting again towards the end of August. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Or even in the early part of September.
How about August 26th, Wednesday?
What's the date?
26th, the Tuesday the 25th, or Wednesday the 26th of August?
I can do either one of those.
I can do.
I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot, but 26th Wednesday looks good to me. If you run into a problem with Zoom, go for the 25th, I guess is what I would say. Of course, you got, let's see, 25th, there would be no BOS meeting that night.
Correct.
So actually that might be good.
What
What's
was
that?
Kayla?
I said the 25th works better for me. It's my husband's night off. If he doesn't have the night off with working nights, I have to.
You'll have somebody in your lap.
Yes. So the 25th isn't night off, but I can make the 26th work.
All right, so let me aim for the 25th, and then if I get tied up or where I can't get a Zoom link, we'll do the 26th, 6 o'clock
Okay.
for everyone.
Works great for me.
All right, so I'm going to aim for August 25th at 6 o'clock. Hopefully I post it right this time. That would be good. If nobody else has anything, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Before we do, Susanna, if you can come up with that map of Marshall Park, could you try to distribute the electronic file to the board
It's
members?
a paper. It's a
Oh, it
paper
is.
file.
Okay.
Susanna, why don't you-
I know where you live, so I can drop it off.
Well, let me take it to the printer. If I can't find
Okay.
my copy, if I can get a copy, I can take it to the printer and then distribute it electronically.
Okay.
Okay.
They'll do
That'd be
that. They
great.
do that for like $3. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
everybody gets a copy.
Super.
That's good.
Great. All right, I can now take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
At 7:24?
Oh, that's 7:24, yes.
Are you seconding that, Dave?
Second,
All right,
yes.
quick roll call, Susanna,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and an aye from myself. We are all done. Thank you so much, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Thanks.